We now will go over solar panels on your roof. Solar panels on roof was introduced in ASCE 716, so you will only see the solar panel on roof option if you select the 2016 version or later. There are countless unique situations that can be encountered with solar panel design, and we don't claim to handle every situation. We have tried to include the basic options that are provided directly in ASCE 7. On the General tab, go to Structure Type and then select Solar Panels on Roof. Now we move on to the MWFRS analysis method and select Chapter 29, as that is the only one that is valid for solar panels. Next, click the CNC method, and we see that only Chapter 30 Part 1 is valid for solar panels, and so we select that option. We then go to the Solar Panels tab at the top of the screen, and we can see all of the inputs for the solar panels. Before going forward, it's beneficial to know that there is a Help button at the top of the inputs. Within the Help is a diagram which can be helpful for understanding the inputs, as well as some explanation on each input. There are also some technical articles that are linked in the Help related to the topic of solar panels. We first select which MWFRS section we wish to follow. If the slope of the roof is less than or equal to 7 degrees, and the roof is either flat, hipped, or gabled, then you have the option of using the criteria in section 29.4.3. Otherwise, if you don't meet any of the previous criteria stated, you must follow 29.4.4, which is a more generalized method. There are a lot of values that must be input, and it is useful to notice that the graphic on the screen changes dynamically with each input to give you visual cues regarding whether your inputs are correct. The gap is referring to the air gap between the roof and panel. First, we enter the gap between the panel and roof at the negative Y end of the panel, and then we enter the same gap for the positive Y end of the panel. Next, we enter the chord length of the panel, which is the length of the panel in the direction perpendicular to the ridge of the building. Now we enter the chord width of the panel, which is the length of the panel in the direction along the ridge of the building. The panel angle relative to the roof surface is automatically calculated based upon our previously specified gaps for the negative and positive Y directions. Next, specify the number of rows which go in the direction perpendicular to the building ridge. Then specify the number of columns which go in the direction parallel to the building ridge. Now we specify the spacing between the panel rows, which would be the spacing in the direction perpendicular to the ridge. Then we specify the spacing between the panel columns, which would be the spacing in the direction along the ridge. Finally, we can enter the X and Y values for the starting point of our array. Entering 0 for both values would place the corner of the first panel in the extreme negative X and negative Y corner of the roof. There are a lot of inputs and they can get confusing. One tip is that when you are not sure about a certain input, enter an extreme value and then look at the graphic to get a feel for what that parameter controls. You will notice quickly that it is very easy to get warnings and errors on individual cells when entering data. There are a lot of limitations on the solar panel criteria in ASCE 7, and we have added those same limitations to the software. We understand that it can be quite frustrating when you get those errors. When you see a warning or error, hover your mouse over the colored corner of the box and some more guidance on why there is an error should show up in the tooltip. Now that the data has been entered, we now go to the Building tab. This is identical to the building criteria we always enter, and so simply do the same here for your building. Refer to other videos where we cover the building inputs in more detail. Now that everything has been modeled, we click Perform Analysis to view the calculations. In the Components and Cladding calculations, you can see that there is a large table with all zones shown. The first set of data applies to the C and C zones where the panel would be considered exposed, and the next set of data shows the C and C where the panels would not be considered exposed. Refer to ASCE 7 for more explanation on the exposed criteria.